42,000 people died in 2020 from accidental falls. I'm here to tell you that all of that can be completely preventable with the right training program. Balance training, first and foremost, is not something that requires crazy stunts. It's a progressive exercise that should always be level specific, meaning you're always doing what your body can do. Now, before I go into some example exercises that I'm going to share that are level specific, to give you some example of the variety of exercises that exist out there, I need you to know not to try these exercises along this video. If you want to try the exercises in a safe way where you're guided through level specific exercises, I've got a link in the description below that'll take you to an interactive free assessment. That'll keep it safe. But please, in this video, just watch the video for an example. So, what does it look like to get started? The easiest exercises are under my levels that I call stabilization. Now, I call it this because it's the foundational stabilization required to help maintain proper posture. One of the reasons why balance training needs to be progressive. If we're trying to do a bunch of crazy stunts and we don't have the stabilization muscles required to just stand and sit in a neutral position with proper spinal alignment, then those crazy stunts are more than likely just going to lead to injury. So starting out, just an example exercise in my stabilization level is something as simple as spinal rotation twists in a chair or seated leg raises. Another one is seated marching. Now you might be thinking, hey, this doesn't seem like it's that difficult, but for many people, sitting in proper posture alone is one of the hardest things functionally and foundationally that we can do for our strength. Now, just to give you an example, sometimes kids are told, just sit still because they wiggle around. Well, they have a hard time doing that for a couple reasons, but one of those reasons is because they haven't developed the foundational strength required to sit in proper posture. And you usually see most people slumping forward and leaning over their desk. That's another reason why balancing has gotten so bad in our population, because we're sitting most of the time. So those are just some examples of the stabilization level exercises that are very critical to exercise our posture control. Moving on to my beginner levels, just to show you how things advanced, the beginner levels have one of my favorite exercises. It's called the tandem stance. Now this one is just standing with your heels touching the toes of your back foot, almost like you're standing on a tightrope, but you don't have to do any crazy stunts with it. This one, you basically just hold it, of course, starting out with a balancing aid for your support, but it really challenges your base of support, meaning the foundation your body has to help you balance. That's just one example of many exercises in my beginner program. Moving on to a more intermediate level, we're still working on static balance, which static balance is just standing still in one place. But for my intermediate level, it gets a little bit harder. Something like single leg squats or single leg Romanian deadlifts. Now you might think, hey, that sounds a little bit like resistance training. Very good point. One review research study has shown that incorporating balance training exercises with good strength training or resistance exercises to help your posture control is the most effective balance training program. So yes, in my intermediate level, I definitely have some exercises like the single leg squat that could be considered resistance, but it definitely challenges your balance in a way that takes up the intensity from the beginner level. Moving on to the advanced level, just to show you a few examples, we're starting to incorporate what's called dynamic balance in addition to the static balance. So again, static balance is standing in one place trying to balance, whereas dynamic balance is recovering your stability after dynamic movement. For example, multiplanar hops with stabilization, or some pogo hops in 8 different directions. You have to recover your balance after you stick the landing. This advanced level is more for the individuals that are trying to work on their competitiveness as an athlete, or they just want really good agility and stability. You don't have to be an athlete to try the advanced level. You just have to be ready for it. Now, one last thing I'll leave you with is how to make things progressive. Now, in my program, I definitely incorporate these different levels to keep it progressive, so that way you're increasing the dial of intensity versus volume every 2 to 4 weeks. Now, I mentioned intensity and volume. Those are 2 very different things. In exercise, to help your body discover that it needs to make adaptations for you, you have to be consistent and you have to give it the right amount of time and you have to increase that intensity or volume slightly. Intensity means your perceived difficulty of an exercise, and volume means the amount of it in which you do. For example, in one of my programs, let's say that you're holding tandem stance in the beginner level for 30 seconds. You would start first by increasing the volume of that exercise, and you'd start holding it for 60 seconds and then 90 seconds in that position, changing no other variables. To increase intensity, however, you would simply make that 30-second hold of tandem stance harder by adding some things like a head nod while trying to hold that position, or your eyes closed while trying to hold that position. There's many different ways that can increase intensity, but messing with our vision or our head movement are just two of them. So if you're interested in learning more about balance training in much more depth and understand all the systems in our body involved in this, and a little bit more about my programs that can go along with that, I've got a free webinar you can sign up for, and you will learn all about the statistics, the research, and the programs that are necessary to help reduce the risk of falling. I've got that free link for the interactive assessment as well that you can follow along with and discover your exact starting point. And that starting point links you to my program. So my program in particular takes you progressively through each step of the way, gives you reminders to complete your workouts at least 3 times a week is enough. And it also is something you can do in the comfort of your own home 24/7. So check it out if you're interested. I also have fitness and health tips as well as some workouts. So check it out. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.